As humans, we tend to contradict how much importance we put on small acts. When people talk about traveling to the past, they worry about radically changing the present by doing something so small. But barely anyone in the present really thinks that they can radically change anything for the future by doing something small. Hello and welcome to What's Your One Thing? My name is Jordan, and today we're going to get honest with one another. I am only 3 episodes in to this show, and I have no idea what I'm doing. Half the time I feel completely lost, and there is this crippling anxiety of imposter syndrome that why do I feel like I can help people when frankly I still need help myself? If you are into this space of personal development, you've probably heard the name Ed Milet. He's a great speaker, and he also has a great line where he says, "You are most qualified to help the person that you used to be." So even though I might not be at the end of the road or at the finish line or be this mega success, I do know that I am better than I was 3 years ago. I'm better than I was 2 years ago. I'm better than I was 1 year ago. And that's what I hope to do for you. If you are struggling with things like trying to create a side hustle, or you started a new workout routine, you're going to the gym 5 days a week, but you used to never work out, you're not showing up as a good father or a good husband or a good mother or a good wife. I've been there, and I still am. So this episode is dedicated to people that feel like you and me. And I'm going to try to describe that as best as I can. You're probably in your 20s or 30s and work in a business operations role for a mid-sized company. You're more than likely married and have kids, and you might live somewhere that's been described as the Midwest. You went to college. You're interested in things like personal development and just overall being more growth-minded. You enjoy doing family activities and taking care of yourself. Okay, now let's talk about some things you might be struggling with. You're overwhelmed by family and work responsibilities. You sometimes struggle with maintaining a work-life balance, whatever that's supposed to mean. You feel pressured to meet high standards in both your personal and professional life. You may have even started to experience burnout and may have had your first or second panic attack. However, even with all of those challenges and things you're dealing with in your daily life, you still believe deep down that you're meant to do something. You're meant to be somebody. So you set goals. Goals to effectively manage your stress and overall improve your well-being. You'd like to foster a better mindset. You want to learn how to talk to yourself better. You want to have more self-compassion. You may dream of becoming financially independent before you retire. And for some of us, before you turn 35. And that clock is ticking. You value things like personal growth, spending time with your family, and creating a positive environment for your kids to grow up in. One that's probably better than your own. You consume information through listening to podcasts or reading books, both of those being in the self-improvement or entrepreneurship space. You follow social media accounts related to personal development and probably more than one motivational speaker. If any of this sounds like you, great. You're in the right place, and you're amongst friends, because we're pretty much the same person. I'd like to use this show as a platform to try to help not only myself, but you. One of my all-time favorite speakers, Jim Rohn, has a saying, "We get paid for bringing value to the marketplace." Better described as reality. You don't get paid for time, you get paid for the value you give during that time. My take on that is that you are paying me with your time in exchange for value. By offering practical and actionable tips, easy to implement strategies for managing stress, or how to foster a more positive mindset, and finding balance in your life, and not just on a beam, I hope you're getting your money's worth. I'll share relatable stories with real-life examples and personal anecdotes and a couple of cheesy jokes that hopefully resonate with you and your experiences and things that you're trying to overcome. I want to create opportunities and a space for you and others to share your own stories and connect on our similar experiences. Everyone's lives may be different, but different doesn't mean you have to go about it alone. We know that life can sometimes feel like a never-ending list of responsibilities and expectations. For many of us, it's easy to get caught up in playing catch-up that we forget about the small things we can do in the present moment. As humans, we tend to contradict how much importance we put on small acts. When people talk about traveling to the past, they worry about radically changing the present by doing something so small. But barely anyone in the present really thinks that they can radically change anything for the future by doing something small. All right. Now, I wish I could take credit for that, but I did not come up with that. That comes from Gigbank's dad on X. Here is a listener story that perfectly captures the idea of finding their little moment in the present. This comes from Justin. After listening to your podcast, I started to think of the little things, and for me, it was holding the door open for an older gentleman at the gas station the other day. This one little act seemed to have put just a little smile on my face. I sometimes think, with the speed of how fast the world works nowadays, we brush off these little acts just as like everyday things we do and forget about the happiness that goes along with helping others. Anyways, just some thoughts from a middle-aged man. Thank you so much for sharing, Justin. And that's so true. You would be surprised at how surprised people are when you do small acts of kindness like that, like just holding a door open for somebody, because some of that might be lost today. I appreciate you sharing that. Thank you. Here is from another listener who is finding their one thing. This comes from Mark. I caught the first 2 episodes, and I love what you're doing with your podcast. I love how you encourage people to avoid the overwhelm of the personal development arena by simply focusing on one thing that's insightful, freeing, and enlightening. P.S. My one thing, right now at least, is continuing to run every day. And guys, Mark is on this incredible streak of over 400 days running straight. That is fantastic. Mark, running every day might seem like a small commitment, but it's a powerful example of how focusing on one thing can create significant personal growth. It's about finding what resonates with you and making it a part of your daily routine. So, how can you find joy in your own small moments? Maybe you're feeling like our ideal listener, struggling with demands of a busy life and looking for ways to manage stress. Well, start by identifying one small action that you can focus on. It could be something as simple as taking a few minutes to put things into perspective. Things aren't always really as bad as we make them up in our mind to be. Will what's happening right now matter in 5 minutes? If it will it matter in 5 years? More than likely, no. Sometimes as simple as counting backwards from 10 in a stressful situation can help control breathing and get you back to thinking clearer. Side note, it will also get you a lot of strange looks from your wife when you don't tell her that you're trying out this new practice. Personal note. Think of these things as small actions, as building blocks for a more balanced and hopefully fulfilling life. They don't need to be grand or complicated. It's about finding those little moments that bring you happiness and making them a regular part of your routine. I just want to say thank you for joining me on this episode of What is Your One Thing? Remember, it's the small things that often make the biggest impact. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave it a review and share it with somebody who might benefit from this message. And don't forget to follow us for more information. Folks, this is what happens when you use ChatGPT to help you write your podcast and you do not edit it. So, on that note, I'm going to leave that in there. Come back next week. It's going to get better. I promise you. Let's bear through it together. And remember to keep a lookout and keep finding your one thing that makes you happy, brings a little joy to your life, puts a little pep in your step, and helps you bring value to the marketplace. All right. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. Talk to you soon. How are you doing this morning?
Good.
Yeah? Doing good?
Yeah, Dada.
Anything you want to talk about today?